Hey there, just a heads up, this episode of the Judo Science Podcast was created with help from AI. Some of the voices you'll hear are synthetic, but the ideas come from real research and real judo.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a fundamental skill in judo, grip fighting. You'll often hear it called Kumi Kata.
That's right. And whether you're relatively new to judo or maybe you're focused on higher level competition, we've gathered some, I think, really useful insights for you.
Yeah, we've looked at a great piece from judoadvisor.com that's really aimed at sort of novice athletes.
And we also dug into a couple of research papers. These analyze grip fighting in big international events like the Judo Grand Slam Paris back in 2016.
And we didn't stop there. We also incorporated some really practical advice from Olympian Travis Stevens, specifically on breaking grips.
So the idea here isn't just, how do I grab the jacket?
Not at all. We want to explore the strategy behind it, the planning, how grip fighting really connects to overall success in judo.
Our aim is really to give you, the listener, a deeper understanding so you can become more informed, maybe even more effective in this crucial part of judo.
Okay, let's dive right in.
Right, so let's start maybe with the beginner's angle. That Judo Advisor article makes a really strong point right away. Grip fighting isn't random. It demands a plan.
Exactly. It's not just flailing your hands around. You need to know, what grip actually works for you. And just as important, how are you going to get that grip in different situations?
Yeah, and the article really stresses working with your coach on this. It's about developing your strategy.
It talks about having a target grip, doesn't it? A specific hold you're aiming for.
Yes, exactly. And then you need throws in your arsenal that actually work well from that specific grip.
Makes sense.
And the general advice, which I think is sound, is to really focus. Master one primary grip first, instead of trying to learn, 10 different ones superficially.
The article gives some great examples. Jimmy Pedro, for one.
Oh, yeah. If you watch his instructionals, or even his matches, there's a clear pattern. He often wanted that sleeve grip with his right hand first.
Right, and then the left hand would come over the opponent's right shoulder.
And the article points out that even those little initial jabs at the lapel, they weren't random either. They were part of setting up that final grip.
And being a lefty obviously shaped his whole approach, his grips, his throws. He's described as more of an outside fighter too, right? Wider stance.
That's right. Now, contrast that with Toshihiko Koga, an absolute legend.
Definitely. Different style entirely.
Completely. He was right-handed. His approach was often a left-hand grip, maybe under the armpit, or sometimes lower on the lapel. But the consistent thing, the key, was controlling the opponent's right shoulder.
Yeah.
That was vital for his big shoulder throws, his seoi-nash.
And he fought more on the inside, didn't he? Tighter turns, different movement.
Exactly. Small, tight turns. Very different from Pedro's style.
And the article makes this a really clear point. Pedro couldn't really attack well from Koga's grip, and Koga couldn't attack well from Pedro's.
Which just hammers home the point, Your grips have got to match your style and your best throws. It's personal.
So, building on that, the article lays out a kind of framework, a gripping pattern for right-handed beginners who want to do forward throws, like that shoulder throw or maybe the inner thigh sweep, uchimata.
Yeah, it's quite practical. Let's break it down.
Okay.
Step one, use your right hand to get a grip way down low on their right lapel near the belt.
Low. Okay, why low?
Well, the thinking is it's just easier to get something down there initially. It's a starting point.
Gotcha. Then what?
Step two. Take your left hand and grip the same lapel, but just above your right hand.
Okay, two hands on the lapel now.
Right. Step three. Now slide your right hand up that lapel to the height where you feel you need it for your throw.
Ah, so you climb up. Makes sense.
Exactly. Step four. Bend that right arm, pull your opponent towards you a bit, create some connection.
Right. And the last step.
Finally, step five. Take your left hand off the lapel and grip their right sleeve.
Okay, so you end up with right hand on lapel, left hand on sleeve.
Correct. And in this specific pattern, the article notes that lapel grip is really the primary one, the main control point. The sleeve grip is more secondary, supportive.
But getting the grip is one thing. Holding on to it or getting it in the first place when someone's fighting you, that's the hard part.
Absolutely. And the article says the crucial next step is developing your methods, your little tricks, both for securing that grip and for defending it when they try to strip it off.
Like the example of Jimmy Pedro showing how to break someone's sleeve grip.
Precisely. Solving those common problems you run into constantly in grip fighting.
This flows really nicely into the more advanced view, doesn't it? Thinking about grip fighting as its own phase of the fight.
Yes, Travis Stevens talks about this. He frames Kumi Kata grip fighting as a distinct phase in judo combat.
Like in MMA, how you have striking range, clinch range, ground range.
Exactly that kind of idea. In judo, there's this grip fighting phase, and crucially, someone wins and someone loses that exchange. It sets the stage for everything else.
It's easy to just gloss over that part if you're not thinking strategically.
Very easy. But Stevens stresses, in judo, and also BJJ, with the gi, you just cannot overlook gripping. It's fundamental.
It lays out that sequence, right? Grip fighting first.
Right. Kumi Kata, then kuzushi, which is breaking their balance, and only then comes waza, the actual technique, the throw.
You need all three in that order.
You need all three. One leads to the next. Success depends on executing the whole sequence.
Yeah, Stevens also gets practical about breaking grips. He says different grips need different breaks, which sounds logical.
Yeah, it seems obvious, but people often try one generic break for everything. He talks specifically about that traditional judo grip, sometimes called the three-finger grip on the sleeve.
Okay, paint a picture of that.
Imagine gripping the sleeve material, mainly with your thumb, index, and middle finger, kind of pinching it, while the ring and pinky fingers wrap around more for support.
Right, okay.
And here's where it gets really cool. He links the origin of that specific judo grip back to how you'd grip a Japanese sword, a katana.
Wow, really? A sword grip?
Yeah. He even references Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. Musashi described the ideal sword grip as, like, light with the thumb and forefinger, medium with the middle, but tight with the ring and pinky fingers. No slack.
Huh. So what's the connection to judo?
The idea is that this way of gripping connects the hand through the forearm muscles, even up into your back, but crucially, it still allows the wrist to be quite flexible and fluid.
Okay. And why is that important for the sleeve grip?
Because that wrist flexibility makes it incredibly difficult for your opponent to just rotate their arm out of your grip. It kind of locks onto the guy material effectively.
Okay, so if someone has that strong grip on you, how do you break it? What's the key principle Stevens gives?
The absolute number one thing, maintain your own stance and posture. Don't get pulled off balance just trying to yank your arm free.
Right, stay solid.
Exactly. His advice is to use your shoulders' range of motion as the limit when pulling back. Keep your shoulders and chest square to your opponent as much as possible.
Why square?
So that even as you're defending, breaking the grip, you're still in a position to immediately transition back to offense or continue grip fighting effectively. You're not turned away and vulnerable.
And he emphasizes attacking immediately after breaking the grip, doesn't he?
Oh, massively. It's not just about getting free, it's about creating an opening for you. Break and attack, almost in the same motion.
How do you generate the force to break it, though? Especially a strong grip.
He describes a push-pull motion. So if you have a grip on their lapel, you push on their chest with that hand while simultaneously pulling back strongly on the arm they're gripping.
Okay, push-pull.
Yeah, he compares it to drawing a bow and arrow, but sort of in reverse stances. It creates maximum separation and tension against their grip.
Makes sense. And this ties back to that sequence, grip, balance, technique.
Absolutely. For Stevens, breaking the grip is the start of breaking their balance. The moment he breaks free, he's thinking about kuzushi, about off-balancing them.
He gave an example, right? Breaking the grip, then circling.
Yeah, breaking the grip allows him to circle, maybe pull on the lapel in a kind of wave motion to disrupt their posture, and then immediately attack with something like an uchigari, that inner-reaping foot sweep. It's all connected.
Okay, fascinating stuff. Let's shift gears now to the research papers. They looked at re-gripping strategies at the top level.
Right. These studies were particularly interested in how rule changes, specifically the 2013 IJF rule forcing immediate action, affected how athletes grip and re-grip.
Let's be clear on re-gripping. What does that mean in this context?
Okay, so re-gripping here means you have a grip, you let go, and then you immediately grab again with the same hand without a real pause.
One hand, release and grab again quickly.
Exactly. The researchers defined it technically. If you had more than 2 continuous grabs with the same hand, that counted as re-gripping. Less than 3 was no re-gripping.
Okay, so what did they find about where people gripped and whether re-gripping helped? This was looking at the Paris Grand Slam data.
Yes. They found that when athletes did not re-grip before throwing, They scored significantly more often if their grips were on the traditional spots, the collar and the sleeve.
The standard grips worked best without regripping.
And this is interesting, when athletes did regrip, they actually scored significantly more often when they grabbed the opponent's back, specifically where the competition number is sewn on.
Really? The back patch? That's unexpected.
Isn't it? Regripping also led to higher scoring rates when gripping other, less standard areas, so not the collar, sleeve, or back patch.
So the takeaway there is maybe regripping makes less common grip targets more viable.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. Maybe that quick regrip to an unusual spot catches the opponent off guard, disrupts their balance just enough for a quick score.
What about cross grips? Grabbing the opposite lapel or across the body?
They look at that too. They found that while regripping did show a higher score rate when cross grips were used, the difference wasn't actually statistically significant. And overall, interestingly, whether athletes regripped or not, they generally scored less often when using cross grips compared to not using them.
Any idea why?
The researchers speculated it might be linked to the IGF rules at the time, 2014-2016. Those rules penalized you if you got a cross grip and didn't attack immediately. So players might have just avoided using them deliberately because of the penalty risk.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, what about throws involving big body rotation, like the shoulder throw, sweeping hip throw, haragoshi? How did regripping affect those?
Well, the study found regripping tended to score more often with techniques that did not involve major body rotation. But again, this finding wasn't quite statistically significant.
So maybe a tendency, but not conclusive.
Right. The thought is maybe regripping often ends you up closer to your opponent, making those big turning throws harder.
Yeah, you need space for those.
Although they do note that athletes might still hit sacrifice throws that involve rotation even from close range, so it's not a hard and fast rule.
And finally, attacking patterns. Did regripping favor direct attacks, combinations, or counters?
Regripping showed a slightly higher score rate with direct single attacks. But, you guessed it, not statistically significant.
Okay.
Overall, though, direct single attacks were the most successful way to score, regardless of whether regripping happened or not.
So what's the interpretation there?
Well, one idea is that if your regrip is successful, you might just get such a good dominant grip that you can go straight for a direct attack. No need for fancy combinations or waiting for a counter.
That makes sense. A good grip leads to a direct opportunity.
Yeah, but they also add a caveat. In matches with a big skill gap, the better athlete might just score with a direct attack anyway, without needing to bother with regripping first.
Right. Skill difference can override tactics sometimes. Okay, that's a lot of detail from the research. Let's try to pull it all together. What are the main things you, the listener, should take away from all this?
Okay, I think for beginners, the big message is have a plan. Develop a focused gripping strategy that fits your throws and your style. Work with your coach. Don't just grab randomly.
And definitely learn how to break grips. That's essential defense, but it's also offense, right? Creating openings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then for more experienced players, the regripping question is more nuanced. It's a strategic choice.
It seems like regripping can open up possibilities, maybe make those unusual grips, like the back patch, more effective.
Potentially, yes.
Right.
But it's also really important to remember that the classic collar and sleeve grips, they are still highly effective when you get them decisively, without hesitation. Don't neglect the fundamentals.
Solid advice. Okay, here's a final thought for you to ponder. Judo is always evolving. Athletes get faster, stronger, more dynamic. So how might these grip fighting strategies, both with and without regripping, continue to change? Will we see the effectiveness of certain grips shift over time?
That's a great question, something to keep an eye on. Think about how these ideas might apply to your own judo, or even just how strategic positioning and control work in other parts of life.
Definitely food for thought.
Next time on the Judo Science Podcast, Episode 9, Biomechanics Recap, What We've Learned So Far.